So, welcome everyone to Leading Ladies of First Official Podcast. So, we're just going to go around and introduce ourselves, and then we're going to go into our topic today, which is sexual harassment. So, first up, we have Faith.
Hello, everyone. My name is Faith, and this is my fourth year in Leading Ladies. I've been in Leading Ladies since the ninth grade.
Gloria.
Hi, my name is Gloria Green. I'm a senior, and this is my second year in Leading Ladies.
Tiffany.
I'm in ninth grade, and this is my first year in Leading Ladies.
Najwa.
Hi, I'm Najwa Patterson. I'm in the 10th grade, and this is my second year in Leading Ladies.
And hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Jean-Pierre. I am a senior, and this is my second year in Leading Ladies. So just to start off our conversation tonight, my first point to all of you is, what does sexual harassment mean to you? Or like, what is your definition of sexual harassment?
Okay, so for me, sexual harassment is any means of whether that be touching or talking to someone like out of misconduct, and it can go both ways. Sometimes it can be a man that's doing it to a woman, or a woman is doing it to a man. Sexual harassment could be like they're touching you in a certain way that you don't appreciate, or they're talking to you, or they're catcalling you. I feel like anything that really pushes that type of boundary is sexual harassment.
I agree. I feel like sexual harassment is any kind of harassment, but done in a sexual manner. I feel like some people confuse it and try to push it in a narrative that's kind of out of this world. Like, if someone's talking to you and you don't want them to be talking to you, that's harassment. If someone's touching you, you don't want them to be touching you, that's harassment. Same thing with sexual harassment. It's the same thing, just done in a sexual manner.
And for me, I would just say, like what everyone else said, someone's touching you inappropriately or saying things that are sexual that are inappropriate and make you feel uncomfortable. And I also feel like people tend to limit sexual harassment just to rape and kind of forget about everything else. So I feel like broadening that definition of sexual harassment is important too.
I completely agree. It also goes into calling people out of their name, whether it's like terms like, oh, baby, things of that sort. And yeah, I completely agree with everyone else.
Definitely, just to kind of close it as a whole, it's when you're kind of coming at someone in a very sexual manner, and it's to the point where they're getting really uncomfortable, and you're just gonna keep going, and you're gonna keep nagging and keep going at it. So that I would definitely agree with everything that everyone stated.
And Nicole, you actually brought up a really good point. Sorry. I feel like definitely the lines are kind of blurred between sexual harassment and rape, or any other type of sexual violence, just because some people don't see certain things as sexual harassment. It could be something, I don't want to say minor, but it can be something like someone keeps trying to persuade you in a certain type of way that you don't appreciate, then that could be sexual harassment as well.
And just to add, I feel like a big way of indicating whether something is sexual harassment or not is simply whether the person doesn't enjoy it, doesn't appreciate the action. And that's kind of where the lines are drawn. If it's not voluntary, then it's harassment. And that's in any nature, a conversation that didn't want to be had. If you're forcing someone to send you unsolicited pictures, apply. And I know boys, when I was talking about it with a group of friends, they were like, so it's applying pressure, sexual harassment. And I explained it in a way where it's well, if it was applying pressure, that would kind of be insinuating that there's some part of them that actually wants to do it or appreciates it. It's harassment when the person is clearly not for it, making it obvious that they're not into it, and you're proceeding to engage in the type of behavior.
And that's a great point, Najwa, and a good segue into our next topic. Over these past few weeks, I saw like on Snapchat, on Instagram, on like other forms of social media, this like uproar about sexual harassment, especially amongst teenage girls. And the statistics that followed it, there was, I believe it was more than 95% of girls between the age of 18 and 22 or 18 and 24 are sexually harassed, and they've experienced that. So I just wanted to touch upon like how common it is, especially being in high school, and the response that you guys feel is needed to address it.
So I definitely believe in today's society, a lot of times women are seen as objects or like subjects, or just things that can be used and toyed with. So I think when the whole sexual harassment thing came out, I think some people tried to come at it like as a joke and be like, oh, that's normal for women. If every woman is like going through it, it shouldn't be something that we should bring like to public. And to see the different sides and to see how people took that to Snapchat and just people being very ignorant, talking about, oh, where's the other 3%? Or you're being so open about a woman not feeling comfortable in a certain situation, or touching a woman in a way that is like inappropriate. So I think it definitely brought to light the ignorance within a lot of our communities.
The social media uprising was definitely interesting for me with the statistic, because there was like honestly, there was kind of like an age range of people who were like, there's no way it's 93%. Oh my gosh, and it's just like, why are you going out of your way to justify sexual harassment? Like, no matter what the percentage is, it's still wrong. No matter what margin of the percentage it is, it's still wrong, and it's still very common. And then the further that we discuss the definition of sexual harassment and sexual assault, you kind of realize that a lot more people get sexually assaulted and harassed than you think. And then someone asked me like, are you a part of that percentage? And it's like, well, if by definition, yes, like there has been numerous times where people have said or done things to me that made me uncomfortable, that had to do with sexual manner, that were in place of sexual manner. And it's interesting. And then when you define it that way, you explain it to people that way, even boys will be like, well, when you put it that way, I was sexually harassed too. And it's like, yeah, and you don't have to you don't have to feel like a victim to say that that's something that you experienced, that's something that happened to you. Someone has done something that to you, and it's made you uncomfortable. And there's this whole victim stigma when you call out somebody who did something wrong, and people kind of like tense up about it and don't want to talk about it or say it's unrealistic. But the more we talk about it, it almost feels like it's more than 95% or more than 97%, because it feels like something almost everybody has experienced.
And Nasha, you brought up a good point with like when you said you were talking to your friends and they were like, well, I never really thought about it that way. It was the way that people really had to sit down and explain, like, you saying things to girls this way, or like how you were saying, like applying pressure, or, touching on them, whether it's like, smacking their butt, whatever the case may be. Like, people don't realize that those are categorized as sexual assault. And I think that's what needs to be done, like addressing it, understanding the scenarios of what it is. And, just educating people. Like, I know, like, for my job, literally yesterday, I had to do sexual harassment training because it's mandated by the government. And it's like, these things should be taught in school, like no means no, all these different categories, and how your decisions and your choices impact people.
I definitely agree. And especially when you stated no means no. I was on like social media, and it's not just no, it's I feel uncomfortable, it's stop it, it's I don't feel I'm not okay with what you're doing, or you're taking this too far. I know like a lot of times within like our school, like a girl will be like, hey, stop it. And they'll just be like joking. And the guy would be like, no, 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 it's blah, blah, blah. So it's definitely knowing people's boundaries. And even if it's sometimes saying no louder, or be like, get away from me, or just being more assertive in your tone sometimes. But it shouldn't have to go there, if that makes sense. It shouldn't have to be at that place.
And another thing that I realized with the social media uprising that's been going on with sexual violence is a lot of guys, when they see that there's so many advocates for the victims of sexual violence, they'll get so defensive about it. Like I know there were certain guys who, instead of being allies, they'll be like, "Why are you saying all men?" Like, out of all the things you could have took from this conversation, you're just gonna say that you're not a part of that 99 or 97%. First of all, if you're saying that, then you are a part of that 97%, because you could have just been an ally and say, I stand with you. I'm sorry for the victims that have been affected by this. I'm trying my best to better it. But anyways, I just found that like really crazy. So I feel like something that guys really need to do is just hold themselves accountable and hold other people accountable too. Like, obviously, if you see it going on, you need to do something to stop it. But also for yourself, like, see what you're saying to women, see the way that you're conversating with women, and not just guys to girls, but girls to guys as well.
And Faith's point where it's like, if you're mad about it, that means it applies to you. Like, why are you taking this small portion of the big picture and, blowing it out of proportion? Obviously, it's not all men that sexually harass women or other men, whatever the case may be, but there is a large amount, and we've seen it, and over this time, it caused like a lot of reflection. Like, I know when it came out, like me and my friends were talking, and we're like, this is crazy. And then you don't realize that other people have had similar experiences or experiences that you've never heard of. And that's what really brought this stat to life too.
And also, I just remembered, it's your silence is really loud. So you just being quiet, or even being a girl and you're seeing another girl getting like sexually harassed, and you're just going to stay quiet because you're scared that no one's going to believe you, or this, that, the fourth. Like, you need to know how to speak up. Yes, it's scary to speak up, but the only way things will change is if we use our voice.
And it's weird because when they go, well, not all men, it's like, but you though, but your best friend though, but you've seen it happen though. So not all men, but it's you. You're part of the problem. Just because you haven't directly gone up and asked somebody to do something that they weren't comfortable with, or touch somebody inappropriately, doesn't mean you haven't witnessed it. And just because you haven't done it yourself doesn't mean you can justify the actions of people who have done it because you haven't done it yourself. I really hate when people compare personal experiences to a big picture. Like, that is something, your relationship with the situation does not apply to everybody. And there is a large margin of people that have experienced it. And I really wouldn't believe you if you told me that you haven't seen it happen yourself. And I wouldn't believe you if you told me that you've asked your mom if she's experienced it and she said no, or your little sister if she's experienced it and she said no. So not all men, but you though, but you.
Yeah, and to add on, it's just really sad to me that it's become like the norm. It's become normal for this to happen, and this doesn't justify it in a way for people who don't speak up, but since it's become so common, it's like we've become more used to it in some sort of way. We just think, oh, this is what guys do. This is just how they are in general. And we just have to get out of that sort of mindset, out of that perspective. And yeah.
What Tiffany said is actually so true. Like, I feel like people always jokingly say like the bar is so low, like it's not even on a level anymore, it's like literally in the ground. But I feel like that's what Tiffany's like saying. Like, we've set a standard for guys that's just so low that we don't even like really address the issue anymore. We don't really like see it. So definitely we need to, like, I don't want to say raise the bar, but like, we need to like figure out a way to better it.
Yeah, like we shouldn't be praising people for doing the bare minimum. Like, you didn't sexually harass someone. Like, wow, the bare minimum, Exactly, Nasha. So like, raising that standard, like, holding people accountable for what they're doing. And again, like, I always see that like the bar is so low nowadays that the bare minimum is becoming so rare, and something definitely needs to change about that.
yeah, just to further what Tiffany was saying, like honestly, I don't even feel like it's more of like a desensitization thing. I feel like people were never really sensitive to it. And we're a part of a generation that is going to change that. And we're more socially aware of people's mental health and the things that really can affect people in a negative way. And I remember like the first time something happened to me and I told my sister and she was like, oh, just a guy thing. Like, and I'm just like, it's just a what thing? And it's like, it's almost like forever it's been this thing where men get away with murder. Like, if I have every right to be comfortable within my own body and in my own space, and you have no right to try to infiltrate that. And we learned in elementary school that everybody has a bubble and you need to stay out of mine. And I feel like even in administration, like they try to like brush, like if I've had experiences where girls have went to the principal's office, well, or a dean or whatever, and complained about misconduct, and they've been like, oh, well it wasn't, like that's a serious offense. Like that should be taken more seriously. And it's like, as a female at first, I didn't take it as seriously. Like I took it with a grain of salt because I was just like, okay, nothing's gonna happen. No one's gonna care. It's not that serious, and gone on with my life, and look back at it and I'm like, that's not okay. You shouldn't touch me. You shouldn't talk to me in that way. And we all as individuals deserve respect.
Wow, you're just really dropping gems right now. And also, with the bar, you also have to keep in mind, like growing up, men are told to be strong and assertive and this, that, the other. Why don't we teach men to be gentlemen? Why don't we teach men to be just a good person, to know when to set their boundaries? So this next generation, teaching men, okay, or boys, I guess we would call them now. If a girl does not feel comfortable, just go the other direction. No really means no. We learned this in kindergarten. No is no and yes is yes. And I feel like people are really trying to blur the lines. There's no in between. So I think we definitely need to work on that.
And
Just to pounce up. Oh, go ahead, Nicole. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. And to get rid of sayings like, oh, boys will be boys, and like it's a boy thing, or like if someone is, or if like a guy's acting a certain way, like whether it's like being aggressive or like, harassing you in that kind of way, it means like they like you. Like those things really need to be getting rid of, because it creates a double standard. Like, oh, maybe he likes me, so I'm just gonna let this keep happening to me. Like, and it doesn't create that barrier of, this is wrong, you need to say something about it so it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I was gonna speak on like indicators of like someone is uncomfortable, because again, I was talking about it like with applying pressure, the line is very fine between like I'm uncomfortable giggle and ha 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 I'm enjoying this giggle. But if you're socially aware, you can tell the difference. And even if you think that there might be a tiny ounce of them that is uncomfortable, ask. Consent is an incredible thing. Just ask. Like, and I understand like sometimes it can be like, oh, you don't know whether someone is uncomfortable or not, or someone might not feel comfortable vocally expressing their discomfort because they don't know what's going on. You should take it upon yourself to ask if they're comfortable. And then don't treat everybody like they're your best friend. Things that you could do with your best friend, you can't do with someone else on the street. Like, just because someone is okay with your awful behavior doesn't mean someone else will be. So asking if people are comfortable in a situation, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing weird about that. There's nothing awkward about that. Are you cool with this? Is this okay? Is this fine? It's so easy and quick, and you could go back to whatever you were doing. But like, because they were like, oh, someone's giggling, you can't tell if they're uncomfortable or not, then ask. Like, put yourself in a position where you can't say that you did anything wrong or you could have done more, if that's the case.
And that's why, Najma, what you said earlier was so powerful when you were saying like our generation is starting to like make sure that these things are no longer being said or being done, just because like little conversations like this are definitely going to help a lot. Because say if a male is watching this and they're like listening and they're like, wow, okay, I'm definitely going to do this, then that's one more stat that we don't have to worry about.